A mother and her two small children stand on a freezing street corner at midnight, bags scattered around them, kicked off the last bus of the night. Snow is starting to fall. Most people would walk past. Most people would pretend not to see. But when Marcus Reed pulls up in his decade-old Honda with his own daughter asleep in the back, what he does next doesn't just save one night, it changes 4 lives forever. Before we continue, please tell us where in the world are you tuning in from. We love seeing how far our stories travel. Marcus Reed was tired. Bone-deep, soul-exhausted tired that came from working 2 jobs while raising a 6-year-old daughter alone. It was 11:47 p.m. on a Wednesday in February, and he just finished his evening shift at the hospital where he worked as a janitor. His other job, driving for a rideshare app during weekend mornings, barely covered the gap between rent and groceries, but it was all he had. In the back seat, his daughter Zoe was sound asleep, bundled in her purple winter coat, her small face peaceful in a way that made Marcus's chest ache. She'd insisted on coming with him tonight because she didn't want to stay with Mrs. Chen, their neighbor who usually watched her. "I want to be with you, Daddy," she'd said, and Marcus hadn't had the heart to argue. The streets of Bridgeport were quiet this time of night, the kind of quiet that felt fragile, like it could shatter at any moment. Marcus turned onto Maple Street, heading toward their apartment complex, when he saw them. A woman stood on the corner near the bus stop, her thin jacket inadequate for the temperature that had dropped below freezing. She was maybe 30, with dark blonde hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, and she looked utterly lost. 2 children flanked her, a boy who couldn't have been more than 8, and a little girl around 4, both shivering despite their coats. Suitcases and black garbage bags filled with belongings were piled around them. The bus shelter behind them was empty, the digital sign reading, "Last bus departed. Next service, 5:47 a.m." Marcus's foot hit the brake before his brain fully processed what he was doing. He pulled over, hazard lights blinking, and rolled down his window. "Excuse me, are you okay?" The woman startled, instinctively stepping in front of her children. In her eyes, Marcus saw exhaustion and fear, and the kind of wariness that came from bad experiences. "We're fine," she said, but her voice shook. "Just waiting." "For the 5:47 bus? That's 6 hours from now." "I know." Her jaw tightened. "We'll be fine." The little girl behind her sneezed, a wet, congested sound that echoed in the quiet. The boy wrapped his arm around his sister, trying to share warmth. Marcus looked at them, really looked. The woman's hands were shaking, and not just from cold. The bags around them had the hasty, chaotic look of people who'd packed in a hurry. The children's faces were red from wind and cold, their eyes too old for their ages. "Look, I don't mean to intrude, but it's 12 degrees out here, and it's supposed to snow tonight. You can't wait out here for 6 hours with 2 kids." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "My name's Marcus. I have a daughter about your son's age. If you need help, I'd like to help." "We don't need charity." The words came out defensive, practiced. "I'm not offering charity. I'm offering a ride, wherever you're trying to go." The woman studied him for a long moment. Marcus could see her calculating, weighing risks, trying to determine if he was safe for just another danger in a night already full of them. "The driver kicked us off," she said finally, her voice cracking. "The bus driver said our fare cards weren't valid, that we didn't have enough money for all of us. I tried to explain, tried to tell him we just needed to get to the shelter across town, but he said he couldn't let us ride without proper payment. He just left us here." Marcus felt anger flash through him, hot and immediate. "He left you here? In this weather? With kids?"
Said it wasn't his problem. She looked down at her children, and Marcus saw her face crumble for just a second before she forced it back into something resembling composure. "I'm Vanessa. This is my son Cooper and my daughter Mia. And you're right, we need help. We need to get to Haven House on the east side. It's a family shelter." "Okay." Marcus put his car in park and got out. Let's get you there." It took 10 minutes to load everything into his Honda. The trunk was too small for all their belongings, so bags ended up stacked in the front passenger seat, leaving Vanessa squeezed between her children in the back. Zoe had woken up during the commotion, blinking sleepily. "Daddy? What's happening?" "We're helping some people who need a ride, sweetheart. This is Cooper and Mia. Can you say hi?" Zoe, always friendly, waved at them. "Hi, I'm Zoe. I'm 6 3/4. Mia, the little girl, gave a tiny wave back but didn't speak. Cooper just nodded, his face guarded. Marcus programmed Haven House into his GPS and started driving. The shelter was clear across town, a 30-minute drive in grid conditions. With the snow that was starting to fall, it might take closer to 45. "Thank you for this," Vanessa said quietly from the back seat. "You didn't have to stop." "Yes, I did." Marcus met her eyes in the rearview mirror. Nobody should be left on a street corner in winter, especially not kids. Not everyone would see it that way. Marcus thought about that as he drove. She was right. He'd driven past homeless people before, told himself he was too busy, too broke, too tired to help. What made tonight different? He glanced in the mirror again and saw Mia leaning against her brother, her eyes drooping. Cooper sat rigid, alert, one arm around his sister like a shield. Vanessa stared out the window, her jaw tight. What made tonight different was that he couldn't unsee them, couldn't drive away from two shivering kids and live with himself. When they pulled up to Haven House 20 minutes later, Marcus's stomach sank. The building was dark. A sign on the door read, "At capacity, no vacancy. Please call 211 for other options." Vanessa made a sound in her throat, something between a sob and a laugh. Of course they're full. Are there other shelters? 2 others in the city. We tried them both before coming here. They're full too. She pressed her palms against her eyes. Winter's the worst time to need a bed. Everyone needs one. Marcus sat there, engine idling, mind racing. It was past midnight now. The temperature had dropped to 10 degrees. The snow was falling harder, already accumulating on the windshield. He thought about his apartment. 2 bedrooms, barely 700 square feet. He and Zoe shared one room to save money, the other filled with storage. It wasn't much, but it was warm. It was safe. He thought about Zoe, about how he'd feel if it were them on that street corner, kicked off a bus, nowhere to go. "There's a motel about 10 minutes from here, the Riverside Inn. Nothing fancy, but it's clean and warm. Let me get you a room for tonight. Tomorrow in daylight, you can call around, figure out your next step." "We can't accept that." Vanessa's voice was firm, despite its exhaustion. "You've already done too much."
You can, and you will, because I'm not leaving you and your kids on a street corner, and I'm not leaving you in a parking lot outside a closed shelter. Marcus turned to look at her directly. "Please, let me do this." "Why?" Vanessa's eyes were shining with unshed tears. "Why would you do this for strangers?" Marcus glanced at Zoe, who was watching the whole exchange with wide, curious eyes. "Because someone helped me once, when I needed it, and because I want my daughter to learn that when you can help, you do." The Riverside Inn was exactly as Marcus described, nothing fancy but clean. The night clerk, a tired-looking man named Dave who Marcus recognized from previous late-night encounters, barely raised an eyebrow at the odd group checking in at 12:30 a.m. "1 room, 2 double beds," Marcus said, sliding his credit card across the counter. "That'll be $79 plus tax. How many nights?" Marcus looked at Vanessa, who had sunk into one of the lobby chairs, Mia asleep in her lap. Cooper stood guard beside them, that same vigilant posture that broke Marcus's heart. 3 nights, Marcus said, making a decision he probably couldn't afford, but couldn't not make. 3? Vanessa's head snapped up. "That's too much. 1 night is already—" 3 nights gives you time to figure things out, make calls, find resources. You can't do that in 1 night. Marcus completed the transaction before she could protest further. "Room 127, ground floor. Here are your keys." Getting everyone settled took another 20 minutes. The room was small but had everything they needed. 2 beds, a bathroom, a TV,
and most importantly, heat. Marcus helped carry their bags inside while Vanessa got the kids settled. "There's a mini fridge," Marcus pointed out, "and a microwave. I'm gonna run to the convenience store down the street and grab some food."
Marcus, you don't have to. I know I don't have to. I want to. He looked at Cooper and Mia, both of them hollow-eyed with exhaustion and hunger. What do your kids like to eat? Vanessa's face crumpled for just a moment. Anything. They'll eat anything. We haven't... Today was hard. Marcus nodded, understanding what she wasn't saying. I'll be back in 15 minutes. At the 24-hour convenience store, Marcus filled a basket with the kind of food that could be eaten immediately. Sandwiches, bananas, juice boxes, crackers, peanut butter, granola bars. He added milk for Mia, who looked like she needed it, and grabbed 2 coloring books and a pack of crayons on impulse. The total came to $43. Combined with the motel room, Marcus had just spent over $300, money he'd been saving for Zoe's birthday next month, money they needed for rent. He pushed the guilt down. He'd figure it out. He always did. Back at the motel, Vanessa was trying to coax Mia into the bathroom to wash up. The little girl was crying, overtired and overwhelmed. Cooper sat on the edge of one bed, staring at his hands. "I brought food," Marcus announced, and Cooper's head shot up. They ate like they were starving, which Marcus realized they probably were. Cooper devoured 2 sandwiches and 3 bananas. Mia picked at crackers and peanut butter, her eyes drooping between bites. Vanessa ate mechanically, like she was refueling rather than tasting. Zoe, who'd been quiet through all of this, pulled out the coloring books Marcus had bought. "These are for you," she said shyly to Mia. "Do you like to color?" Mia nodded, accepting the gift with small, careful hands. "I like your bear," Zoe added, pointing to a stuffed animal Mia clutched. "What's his name?"
"Mr. Snuggles." Mia's voice was barely a whisper. "That's a good name." Marcus watched his daughter, the small person he'd somehow raised alone for 6 years, extend kindness without hesitation. He felt pride swell in his chest. It was nearly 2 a.m. when Marcus finally prepared to leave. Cooper and Mia were asleep in one bed, curled together. Vanessa walked him to the door, her eyes red-rimmed but grateful. "I don't know how to thank you," she said quietly. "You saved us tonight, literally saved us." "You would have figured something out." "No," her voice was firm. "We wouldn't have. It's 10 degrees outside. The shelters are full. If you hadn't stopped..." She didn't finish the sentence, but they both knew how it ended. Marcus pulled out his wallet and extracted 2 20s, the last cash he had until Friday. "For food tomorrow, and here," he scribbled his phone number on a motel notepad. "If you need anything, call me. Seriously, anything." "Why are you doing this?" Vanessa asked again. "And don't say it's because someone helped you once. There's more to it." Marcus looked back at Zoe, who was starting to doze off in one of the chairs. 5 years ago, my wife left, just packed her bags one day and drove away. Didn't want to be a mother anymore, didn't want the responsibility. I was working in a warehouse then, barely making enough to cover our apartment. He paused, the memory still painful. I came home one day to an eviction notice. Rent was due, I didn't have it, and suddenly Zoe and I were going to be on the street. What happened? My neighbor, Mrs. Chen, she's the one who usually watches Zoe. She gave me 3 months' rent, just gave it to me, said I could pay her back when I got on my feet. Marcus smiled slightly. Took me 2 years, but I paid back every penny. But the point is she helped when I needed it most. So when I see someone who needs help, I remember what that felt like. Vanessa wiped her eyes. Your Mrs. Chen raised a good man. I hope so. Marcus picked up Zoe, who wrapped her arms around his neck without waking. Get some rest. And Vanessa, things will get better. They always do. Marcus didn't hear from Vanessa the next day, which he tried to tell himself was good. It meant she was handling things, making calls, finding resources. He went to work at the hospital, came home, fed Zoe dinner, helped with homework, and tried not to check his phone every 10 minutes. On Friday evening, 2 days after he'd left them at the motel, his phone finally rang. Marcus, it's Vanessa. I'm sorry to bother you, but I didn't know who else to call. His heart sank. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong, exactly. I got good news, actually. There's an opening in a different shelter, one with family housing. They have a room for us, and it's long-term, up to 90 days while I find work and save for an apartment. She paused. But it's in Riverside, about 20 miles from here. The bus doesn't run there, and a taxi would cost money I don't have. I'll drive you. The words came without hesitation. Marcus, you've already... I'll pick you up tomorrow morning. What time do you need to be there? He heard her breath catch. 10 a.m. But are you sure? It's Saturday. You probably have plans with Zoe. Our plans are flexible. We'll see you at 9:30. When Marcus and Zoe pulled up to the Riverside Inn the next morning, Vanessa and her kids were waiting outside with their bags. Cooper looked less guarded today, and Mia actually smiled when she saw Zoe.
"Hi, Mr. Snuggles," Zoe called to the stuffed bear clutched in Mia's arms, and the little girl giggled. The drive to Riverside took 40 minutes. Marcus learned more about Vanessa during that time than he had in their previous encounters. She'd been a medical assistant before losing her job 6 months ago when the clinic closed. Her ex-husband had been abusive. She'd finally left with the kids 3 months ago and had been couch surfing with friends until those options ran out. "I'm not a bad mother," she said suddenly, defensively. "I know how this looks. Homeless, kids living in a motel, accepting help from a stranger, but I'm not a bad mother." "I never thought you were." Marcus met her eyes in the rearview mirror. "You're a mother doing everything she can to protect her kids. That's not bad. That's heroic." Vanessa's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back. The Riverside Family Center was a revelation. Unlike the grim, institutional shelters Marcus had imagined, this place looked almost welcoming. A cheerful 2-story building with a playground out front and flower boxes in the windows, currently empty but promising color in spring. "This is nice," Cooper said, the first unsolicited comment Marcus had heard from him. "It is nice," Vanessa agreed, hope creeping into her voice. They met with an intake coordinator named Patricia, a warm black woman in her 50s who immediately put everyone at ease. While she processed Vanessa's paperwork, Zoe and the other kids were sent to a play area supervised by a volunteer. "We provide housing for up to 90 days. During that time, we help with job placement, childcare, and saving for permanent housing. We have an on-site after-school program, so your kids will be cared for while you work. We also offer counseling services and legal aid if you need help with custody arrangements or protective orders." "This sounds too good to be true," Vanessa said quietly. "It's real, honey. We've helped a lot of families get back on their feet. You're going to be okay." Marcus watched as Vanessa processed this, the idea that things might actually be okay. The idea that she didn't have to do this alone. When the paperwork was complete and Patricia led Vanessa to see their room, Marcus prepared to leave. His job here was done. He'd gotten them somewhere safe, somewhere they could rebuild. But as he headed toward his car, he heard footsteps behind him. "Marcus, wait!" He turned to find Vanessa jogging toward him, Cooper and Mia holding her hands, Zoe trailing behind with a new friend from the play area. "I need to say something," Vanessa said. "When you stopped on that street corner, I was convinced you were just another person who'd hurt us. That's what the last few months have taught me, to not trust anyone." She took a shaky breath. "But you proved me wrong. You didn't just help us, you gave us hope. You reminded me that good people exist." Anyone would have done the same. "No," Cooper spoke up, his young voice firm. "Most people walked past us that night. Lots of people. You were the only one who stopped." Marcus knelt down to Cooper's level. "You're a brave kid, you know that? The way you take care of your sister, the way you help your mom, that's real courage." Cooper's face, so carefully neutral, finally cracked, his eyes filled with tears. "I was so scared. On that street corner, I was so scared." "I know, but you're safe now. Because of you." Marcus pulled the boy into a hug, feeling small shoulders shake with sobs that had been held back too long. When Cooper finally pulled away,
He wiped his face with the back of his hand, embarrassed. "It's okay to be scared," Marcus said gently. "It's okay to cry, and it's okay to accept help when you need it." Vanessa was crying too now, not bothering to hide it. "How do I repay this? How do I ever repay what you've done?" "You don't," Marcus stood. "You get back on your feet, you take care of your kids, and someday, when you see someone who needs help, you remember this feeling and you help them. That's how you pay it forward." Marcus didn't expect to hear from Vanessa again after that Saturday. He'd done what he could. Now she had professionals helping her, resources he couldn't provide. But 2 weeks later, she called. "I got a job," she said, and he could hear the smile in her voice. "Medical assistant position at Riverside Community Health. I start Monday. Patricia helped me update my resume and connected me with the hiring manager." "Vanessa, that's incredible." "The kids are doing better too. Cooper's in the after-school program, and he's actually making friends. Mia's in daycare here as the center, and she's talking more. She asked about Zoe yesterday. Zoe would love to see her." "That's actually why I'm calling. I know this is asking a lot, but would you and Zoe want to come to dinner this Sunday? The center has a communal kitchen, and I'd like to cook for you, to say thank you properly." Marcus found himself smiling. "We'd love that." Sunday dinner became a regular thing. Every few weeks, Marcus and Zoe would drive to Riverside and have dinner with Vanessa and her kids. Marcus watched as color returned to Vanessa's face, as the haunted look in her eyes gradually faded. Cooper started smiling more, cracking jokes, acting like the 8-year-old he was instead of a miniature adult. Mia attached herself to Zoe, following her around like a shadow. "They're like sisters," Vanessa observed one evening as they watched the kids play. "Zoe's always wanted a sibling," Marcus admitted. "When her mom left, I felt guilty that she'd always be an only child." "You're a good father, Marcus. Zoe's lucky to have you." "I'm lucky to have her. She's what kept me going after my wife left. I'd wake up every morning, look at this tiny person depending on me and think, I can't fall apart. I have to keep going." He paused. "I imagine you know that feeling." "I do." Vanessa's voice was soft. "There were nights I wanted to give up, when we were sleeping in my car, when we were kicked off that bus, when everything felt hopeless. But then I'd look at Cooper and Mia and I'd think, they need me. I have to keep fighting." "You're stronger than you think." "So are you." Something passed between them in that moment. Recognition, understanding, the beginning of something neither of them had been looking for, but both desperately needed. 3 months after that night on the street corner, Vanessa moved into her own apartment. It was small, a 2-bedroom in a modest building, but it was hers. She'd saved every penny from her job, worked with Patricia to build her credit, and finally had a place to call home. Marcus and Zoe helped her move in, along with Cooper and Mia. They assembled furniture from thrift stores, hung curtains, arranged the kids' rooms with secondhand toys and books. "It's perfect," Vanessa said, standing in the middle of her living room. "It's absolutely perfect." That evening, after everything was unpacked and the kids were watching a movie together, Vanessa pulled Marcus aside. "I need to tell you something," she said, "and I don't want you to feel pressured or obligated or anything like that, but I need to be honest." Marcus's heart started beating faster. "Okay?" "These last few months, getting to know you, spending time together, it's been more than just gratitude. I mean, I am grateful, incredibly grateful, but it's become more than that." She took a breath. "I care about you, Marcus, and I think you might care about me too. But if I'm reading this wrong, please tell me now before I make a fool of myself." Marcus reached for her hand. "You're not reading it wrong. I've been trying to figure out how to tell you the same thing without it seeming like I was taking advantage of the situation or expecting something in return for helping you." "So we've both been idiots," Vanessa laughed, the sound light and free. "Apparently," Marcus smiled. "So what do we do now?" "I think," Vanessa stepped closer, "I think we stop overthinking and just see where this goes." Their first kiss was gentle, tentative, full of promise. When they pulled apart, they found 4 children standing in the doorway staring at them. "Finally," Cooper said, rolling his eyes in a gesture so perfectly preteen that both adults laughed. "We've been waiting forever," Zoe added. "Forever is 3 months," Mia informed them seriously. "That's long enough," Cooper decided. The wedding was small, held in the backyard of Mrs. Chen's house, who'd insisted on hosting and had spent a week decorating with paper lanterns and flowers. About 30 people sat in folding chairs while Marcus and Vanessa exchanged vows they'd written themselves. "A year and a half ago, you stopped on a street corner and changed my life," Vanessa said, her voice steady despite the tears streaming down her face. "You saw me when I felt invisible. You helped when you had no reason to. You showed me that kindness isn't transactional, it's just who you are." Marcus smiled at her, this strong woman who'd rebuilt her life from nothing. "You taught me that helping others doesn't make you a savior, it makes you human. You taught me that accepting help isn't weakness, it's courage. And you taught me that love can grow in the most unexpected places, like a convenience store parking lot at midnight." The kids stood with them, Zoe as Vanessa's maid of honor, Cooper as Marcus's best man, and Mia as flower girl. They'd become a family gradually, organically, through Sunday dinners and movie nights and homework help and bedtime stories. When the officiant pronounced them married, all 3 kids cheered. At the reception, Mrs. Chen gave a toast that had everyone crying and laughing simultaneously. "When Marcus's wife left him and Zoe, I helped because I saw a good man who needed a hand up, not a hand out. He took that help and built something beautiful, a life for his daughter, a career for himself, and a heart big enough to save a family he'd never met." She raised her glass. "To Marcus and Vanessa, who prove that kindness creates ripples we can't always see." Later, as the party wound down and the kids played together in the yard, Marcus found Vanessa standing alone, watching them. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her waist. "That night, on the street corner, how close we came to—" She didn't finish the sentence. "But you didn't. You're here. We're here. Because you stopped." She turned in his arms to face him. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you'd driven past?" "Every day," Marcus admitted. "And every day I'm grateful I didn't. Not just because I found you, but because I found us, this family we've built." Vanessa kissed him, soft and sweet, and Marcus thought about that night 18 months ago, about making a decision to help because it was the right thing to do, never imagining it would lead to this: a wife, 3 kids, a family stitched together from broken pieces into something whole and beautiful. "Daddy, Vanessa," Zoe called from across the yard. "We want to do our dance." The 5 of them had choreographed a silly dance for the reception, something Mia had insisted on. They gathered in the center of the yard while Mrs. Chen started the music, and they danced, awkward, laughing, perfectly imperfect. Marcus looked at his family, this collection of people who'd found each other when they all needed saving, and felt complete. Sometimes the most important decisions are the simplest ones. Stop or keep driving. Help or walk away. Open your heart or keep it closed. Marcus had stopped. He'd helped. He'd opened his heart. And in doing so, he hadn't just saved a family, he'd found his own. If this story reminded you that one act of kindness can change everything, share it with someone who needs hope. Subscribe for more stories about the everyday heroes who choose compassion, the families built from courage, and the beautiful ways broken people become whole when they help each other heal. Sometimes all it takes is one person who refuses to drive past someone in need.